Roxy here, ROQZEE. I've just come on very quickly to thank everyone who has listened to my podcast recently. As I explained in my last video, we are doing things differently this year, and I'm very grateful for all the guests that I've been able to line up. Um, it's literally roughly 4 a.m. here in the UK. It's snowing outside, so it's literally 0 degrees as I speak to you, which is probably why I'm dressed like an Eskimo. Um, what I wanted to just talk about very quickly is the lineup of guests that we have. So the first guest, as everybody said yesterday, was Top CD, who talked to us yesterday about the more motivational things, right? Managing finances, looking to the future, pulling yourself up from your bootstraps, trying to find your way through an economic situation like we have back at home. I found that a very interesting conversation. Also, because he's one of the few people that I know in my life who support the current administration and think that Nigeria is going in the right direction. And it will be very interesting for you to listen to why he thinks that that's what's happening. As always, I get all of my guests are very different from me. They might have different opinions, but we're mutually respectful of each other's opinions, which is why, as you will notice from the interview, I don't interrupt him very much. I let him literally say what he came on to say because I think it's respectful to the guests to let them say what they came to say. You can disagree with them as much as you politely can, but I don't think you should, as a host, interfere with what they came to say on your show. So that was a really good first interview, and I'm very proud of that, of what we've achieved. It's getting some traction on the internet. I'm hoping that many of you get a chance to listen to it. Please listen to it, subscribe to the channel, like it, comment, and retweet the tweet so that other people get to see it. Um, Today as well, I have been able to record the next podcast episode, which I have now scheduled for next week, Saturday. It is with the amazing Glow Stitches. Many of you who already know her online on Twitter know that she's one of my favorite people. Um, I'm very proud of her and the work that she's doing. She is an unwavering Christian online. She doesn't make any pretense about that. We talk about her faith. We talk about her fashion sense. We talk about why she insists on being called a tailor, not a fashion designer like everyone else in Nigeria. But she's very insightful, right? So she talks very deeply about things that move her, her values, her cause. And in the interview, you would get a sense of why her convictions influence everyone else around her, including myself, right? So I'm hoping that you'll also enjoy that one next week. After that, we have what I call my interview of the month. I was very fortunate to snag an international sports journalist. He's very well known. He used to be in Nigeria on the radio, the Silent G. Many of you who are in sports probably know him when you see the thumbnail on the podcast. He has interviewed international superstars. He went for the World Cup, one of the World Cup coverage sometime back. I can't remember which of them. But he's very experienced and exposed. He's currently in Europe right now studying journalism, and so it was very interesting to get his sense of comparatively journalistic practices in Europe versus in Nigeria. What he thought about brown envelope and credibility of journalists. What he thought about just generally the news of the day in Nigeria and whether or not um, we're going the right direction in terms of freedom of speech, the Cyber Crime Act, bullying and harassment, whether it's a civil or criminal matter, all of that. We went into all of that. It was a very good interview as well, but it's one of the more intellectual interviews, if I may say so myself. I want to just thank everyone else who have also given me ideas online of people that they would like me to interview. I have a long list of them. I have reached out to a few of them. I don't want to mention their names preemptively in case they refuse to come on the show, which is also fine. but I have reached out to some of them. For others, I haven't reached out yet because I'm trying to research. So the way this is done is that I can't reach out to someone if I don't have the questions, and I can't engage them in the conversation. To do that, I have to research about their background, the controversies they've been in, things that they've said, positions they've held. Maybe I agree with, maybe I don't agree with. But you need to know a little bit about your guests, right? Just the highlights of their life, so that when they come on your show, it feels like you know them enough to have a conversation with them without feeling like you're misrepresenting what they've said or what they've done. So that's why. So if I haven't reached out to any of your favorites, that's the reason why I'm still doing a bit of research on them. And I'm hoping that as soon as I have enough, I will reach out to them and politely ask them to come on the show. Many of you have asked me to invite people that are really way bigger than I can ever imagine. Somebody asked me to get Kate Henshaw on the show. And I just tagged her on under the tweet where the person had mentioned her name, and I said, give me questions to ask her. And the next day I was in the office, and Kate Henshaw herself wrote underneath and said, "Hello, Happy New Year." And I froze because Kate Henshaw, for God's sake, first of all, how did she even see my tweet, even though I tagged her on it? But second of all, she had the humility to reply. Like, I'm like, oh my God, what am I supposed to do? Celebrity, you know? Which also brings me to the value, the moral lesson for me in that is sometimes all of us do wishful thinking. We say things loud because we think it will never happen, if that makes sense. So when I tagged her on it, in my wildest dreams, I never thought should A, say it, or B, respond to it. But then when your dream comes and then you freeze because you were not prepared for it, and that's what happened to me. I could have seized that moment if I really believed that Kate Henshaw would see it and she would reply and maybe want to come on the show. And I prepared myself. I'd be ready for a reply in case she tags, you know what I mean? And I, gone in there with an invite immediately and all of that. I didn't do any of that. I froze. I was in the office. I didn't think she was ever going to say it, which is my learning is that this year especially, as I pray for big things, as all of us pray for big things, prepare yourself for a yes. Don't always think that if you ask it, you want a yacht, you want a plane, you want a president. You ask these things and think, but it will never happen. So I can ask for them because I'm safe. What if you're not safe? What if you get a yes? What if the universe, God, gives you a yes? Are you going to freeze like me and not be able to take the next step and action it? Or are you really ready to receive the blessings that you claim that you want? So, without being too preachy, just wanted to give you a quick update on where the podcast is going and how it's gaining traction. Thanks to everyone and the communal efforts you're all putting in to make sure that I get the right guests, the right questions, and you're also supporting in listening. Please continue to support the brand. This is literally a marketing video for the next 3 episodes of the podcast. And to ask you to please join me as I develop that format. All right then. No need to drag it. See you all around. Thank you so much for everything.